So this is just a reminder of yesterday. Why did I leave that 1 so far over there? Because we need some space to complete the square. Let's see if you remember how to use Heffen square and complete the square. And when you do complete the square, when you're all done, it'll look something like this. It will not be exactly this, but it'll look something like that. Because then it's in vertex form. And then you know the vertex, which is really handy. All right, take a minute. Do complete the square. I'll pause for a second while you give that a shot. Okay, I'm hoping that was a walk in the park for you. If you were gone yesterday and didn't watch the video, I do record this, every day. You could have stayed all caught up if you were gone yesterday. But you should have gone half of 6 is 3 and 3 squared is 9. And that's always going to be positive because you squared the number. And then there's all but minus 9 here that cancels it out. Remember, we have to keep this thing exactly equal to what it used to be. And now that part can factor. And of course, as the sign on my wall here to my left says, if you can factor it, you should. So I'm going to factor it. The slow way first, just to show you where it comes from. And then, of course, that's really x plus 3 squared, right? And then that makes minus 8. Raise your hand if you had the same thing as me. Okay, awesome. So why do we do that again? To get the vertex. And the vertex would be negative 3, negative 8. Okay. So then the question becomes this. What if there's a negative in the front? Do you remember me telling you that if you were, and I said already, if you can factor it, you should. And if there's ever a negative in the front, you have to factor that out. Now, here's the really tricky part. Do you remember I moved this over? I'm going to move it over again because you're used to factoring things where you'd factor it out of everything. No, not this time. We're leaving that negative 2 over there because we weren't touching that until the end, right? Same thing. We're only going to factor the beginning. Now, some of your factoring skills are still weak enough that you can't factor this. And if that's you, you should come in the morning sometime. Mondays, Thursdays, get some help. Because by now, you should be good at this. You should be able to factor that. Okay, so here's a reminder. You're going to go, I see the negative. I know they both, even if they didn't both have a negative, you can factor out a negative by dividing both of them by 1. But then, to keep it actually equal, you can't just divide it by 1. You have to also times it by, I guess, negative 1 in both cases. If you divide them both by negative 1, you have to times it by negative 1 in the front to keep it equal. So now I got my negative 1 up in the front, and now I have regular x squared. Notice this switches to positive 8x. I'm leaving room. Think about it. Think about the big picture here. I'm just copying this negative 2 down here. Why did I leave room there? Because you know that I'm going to do the half and square thing again. But there's one more catch. From here, I hope you know how to do the half and square thing. You'll put something here and here. Take a minute, but don't finish it. Don't finish, because I bet you that you'll forget something really important. So what number goes on those 2 green lines? Which one is it? All right. So there's a plus 16 here. Half of 8 was 4. 4 squared 16. And a minus 16 here. That is exactly right. Does anybody see why this is not going to be able to do its job? Yes?
Because there's a negative in the front.
Yes, because of this negative in the front. Now let's make people think about that further. That's going to have to multiply by this negative 16, and that's going to turn that 16 into negative 16. You see what I mean? isn't the two green 16s job to cancel each other out? And if this one's going to turn into negative 16, then we have to multiply this by a negative also. So whatever you factored out here, you have to also multiply by it right there. That will be the number one thing people will forget, at least on this problem. So easy to forget that. All right, then to finish it off, I betcha everybody in the room can just simplify what I have here and make it factored form. You know, something squared. I'm gonna pause for a second. You finish this off, and you know how I always pair you with row 1 and 2, person across from you. I'd like you to do that. Row 3 and 4, person across from you. Row 5 is the person in front of you or behind you. All right. Talk to that person next to you about what the right answer on this one is. I'm pausing. All right. Did you remember to bring the negative 1 down here? Now, if you just brought a negative all by itself, that works, because negative in front means negative 1. All right. And then this would be an x plus, it's always the square root of that. So square root of 16 is 4. And then these two together, ooh, would have been really easy to forget that. It's actually positive 16 minus 2, because these two negatives. So positive 16 minus 2 is plus 14. Did I get that right? Raise your hand if you think I got that one right. Okay, good. All right. Why'd we do it again? Gave us the what? The vertex. Okay. So, without even telling you, I've told you I solved this one. Leave the 4 alone. It's my only advice. The 4 will only have any action in this problem at the very end. All right, see if you can complete the square, and that'll help you find the vertex. I'll pause for a sec. All right. Let's get the dice of destiny. Call on the next person. Who's ever sitting in row 1, last seat. And that's way back in the corner by the window. In this case, Carlos. Tell me what you did here. All right, divided both of them by 2. I like it, because you're factoring it out. Where do you also have to put the 2? In front. Very nice. Y equals 2, parentheses. Tell me what it's simplified to. Nah, not just x. X squared plus 5x. Perfect. And then have you touched the 4 yet? No. We're going to bring that down. Now I'm going to hand it off to the next person. This is way on the right side of the room in the row 6 in the very back, the furthest seat, which is the closest to the door. Mr. C, that's you today. This is not fun because it's a 5. Do you know how to handle it? Because you're supposed to take half and then square it, right? What do you do? You can turn it into 2.5. That will work. But I'm going to encourage you to use 5 over 2. Because that's the same thing, but I'm promising you it'll be easier to do in your head. 5 over 2, that's half, and then what? Half and, it's a little process we keep doing. Half and, somebody help me. Squared. Half and squared. All right. And I said it would be easier because, look, 5 squared, 25. 2 squared, 4, so it's 25 fourths. Otherwise, you have to go take 2.5 and square it, which is not very fun. Okay. If I did plus 5 over 2 squared. I have to do minus 5 over 2 squared. And I did just tell you that that comes out to 25/4. So I'm going to just put that minus 25/4. All right. What's the thing that I said people would forget, Ian? There's a critical moment right here we got to remember. The 2 in the front, yes. We're going to put that right here. Okay. Now I can simplify it down. The 2, the x, and then if you're struggling with how to factor this, I get it, but do you remember how I said to put 5 over 2 in there? Because you can just write 5 over 2 right here. That's why I like putting the fraction right there. And just saying that fraction squared, because then it leaves it there. If you had written the actual decimal for 5 over 2 squared, you'd now have to take the square root of it, which would be a pain. So it's just 5 over 2. Goes there. Okay, and now I do want to remind you that you would have a calculator on the test, but only a scientific one. So otherwise, see graphing one. To find the vertex of this, you would have just graphed the original yellow problem. Kids would realize that, and all they do is graph the problem, look for the vertex, there it is. You know what I mean? They wouldn't have to learn this process at all. All right, so we won't allow graphing calculators, but we will allow scientific calculators in this test, which means that you could totally just do this on a calculator. So take a second, do it on a calculator, and you get your answer. It's going to be a decimal, that's fine. I'll pause for a second while you do that. So I did a little calculator work, and I came up with negative 12.5 plus 4, which should be negative 8.5. Can anybody verify negative 8.5? You got the same thing as me? All right, good. It's negative 8.5. Then my vertex, this is as hard as they would ever be, ladies and gentlemen, is 5 over 2, aka 2.5. It's legal to write 5 over 2. With a negative, because it's so easy to forget that. See this plus in there? And then this one we trust, minus 8.5. Will there be anything that hard on a test? We absolutely could put one that hard on the test. You're in honors. You're supposed to be able to handle fractions and decimals, especially when you give you a calculator. Last year we didn't give the kids a calculator. We decided it would be just a little, it was a little too harsh to not have a calculator on problems like this. Scientific calculator. All right. Let's do one more. And this one, I'm going to make it so it doesn't have a decimal in it, so it won't be as brutal. You should be able to do this one completely from start to finish. It has both a negative and a 3 that have to be factored out. That plus 1 could be moved over. I'm just not going to touch it for a while. You're doing complete the square to try to find the vertex. All right, here we go. I'm factoring out the negative 3, but only from the first two terms. That plus 1 stays, and you just leave it alone. What I have left is x squared plus 4x. If you don't know why, then you need to stop and divide both of them by negative 3 to see why. And then put a negative 3 in the front. Okay. Now, y equals, and then half and squared, half of 4 is 2, 2 squared is 4, and if I do plus 4 and a minus 4, I get that. Then the most forgotten thing, this negative 3, I know somebody forgot that. Maybe the kid next to you reminded you. Negative 3 goes here, x plus 2 quantity squared, because it's x plus 2 and x plus 2. And then this part's positive 12. Plus 1 is 13. Did I make any mistakes? Did you get the same thing as me? Raise your hand if you got the same thing as me. Awesome. Why'd we do that? Because that's going to give me the vertex. Negative 2, negative 13. Okay. No, positive 13. Negative 2, positive 13. There we go. All right. Man, almost made it through the video without mistake. All right. So that's it for today. The video that the kids will watch in third hour should help them be ready for the homework, which is just a Schoology quiz. And you'll have the same Schoology quiz. I think you'll probably be able to finish it in class. But for my sub for third hour, he is a math teacher, very good at math. So if you get stuck, you can ask questions. All right, that's all I got for you for today.